Hi, I'm Jackson Prom, and my book is Becoming Contagious Christian by Bill Hybels. He speaks to Christians about the right way to go about evangelizing in everyday life. He starts out by analyzing the cost-benefit factor of actually changing one's lifestyle to fit what God calls us to be. And we find out that it's definitely worth it to be a contagious Christian. And he talks about the formula and the equation of becoming a contagious Christian of HP plus CP plus CC equals MI. We don't know what that means, but he starts out by telling us what MI is, maximum impact. He tells us that Jesus wants us to have the absolute maximum impact on the world for his glory. Jesus gives us the key ingredients to this equation. He tells us to be the salt and the light. The salt represents and calls for HP and CP, high potency and close proximity. For salt to be effective, it needs to have a high potency and a close proximity. If the salt isn't good, or if the salt isn't salty, it really has no effect, as well as if it's not actually on the food or on the pavement, it has no effect as well. And the light calls for CC, clear communication. We have to say why we act the way we do, and in order for impactful evangelism to take place, we need to communicate the message of Jesus Christ. This is something that I struggled with a lot, and that's one of my takeaways from this book. In the next section, Hybels goes on to explain how high potency works. He starts out by saying that image is not everything. We need to be authentic Christians in order to be successful in our high potency of Jesus. We need to be able to be compassionate for others, as well as sacrificing our time, our money, and as well as making a commitment to sacrificing for the long haul. In the third section, he talks about close proximity. He says that if we're not close to ungodly people, then who are we actually evangelizing to? And it makes no sense to just hang out with believers. He says that we need to merge from being religious and renegades to make that be in perfect harmony, so that way we're able to maximize our impact. In the fourth section, he talks about clear communication. He starts the section out by starting spiritual conversation. He gives pointers for different types of people. He talks about being direct or indirect, or being invitational, each with their distinct way of approaching the conversation of Jesus. He also gives us plenty of illustrations to use for the message of Jesus Christ, and my favorite is one of the takeaways from this book. He lists misperceptions non-Christians have about the faith and how we can be able to overcome those. And lastly, Hybel talks about the payoff of being a contagious Christian, maximum impact. In his final section, he gives his readers tools to help unbelievers cross the line of faith. He lists things to do to try and lead, to help try and lead someone in the sinner's prayer, as well as assessing the situation properly to make sure that they are ready for that. And he wants contagious Christians to make up the contagious churches, as well as investing our life in other people, because that's what Jesus did. My first takeaway is on page 46, and this is something I struggled with a lot, and it really just hit home with me. It says, far too many Christians have been anesthetized into thinking that if they simply live out their faith in an open and consistent fashion, the people around them will see it, want it, and somehow figure out how to get it for themselves. But Paul asks in Romans 10:14, how can they believe in the one of whom they have not heard? And how can they hear without someone preaching it to them? And that's something I tried to do in high school, and it didn't work out. And my last takeaway is he shows us how to... can you see that? Let me just show you a picture. He shows us this illustration, and it talks about us being, about God separating, about us, God creating us, and that he loves us, and that we messed up, which will lead to death unless he makes a bridge, which is the cross, that we're able to go across. And so I got that. My camera's not able to switch around, otherwise I would have drawn it for you. Thank you. This is my living room with my Grammy. My room is, it's not in the shape that it needs to be to show you that. So thanks, Dr. Hayes.